Alright y'all, what self-discipline advice has actually worked for you? Question/advice. I am drowning in life just a bit and I spent a weird week dating a 24 years old millionaire who I realized wasn't necessarily a genius, but his commitment to himself and his priorities was impressive. I've been thinking about the Stoic quote, "How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself?" I would prefer to get my shit together like, today. I have insomnia and a terrible time convincing myself to do the hard, boring tasks. I particularly struggle with setting time boundaries with people I love, making myself less of a priority. How important are routines, self-parenting, goal setting, or sacrificing your soul to the devil, for those who have figured this out?
You're not going to change overnight. It's a slow process of building habits and made much harder by having ADHD. My advice would be to sort your sleep out first. Almost everything will be easier if you're getting enough sleep. And enough is likely way more than you think. If you've got insomnia, I'd say your first step should be to ring your doctor first thing tomorrow morning to book an appointment to discuss that and what can be done. Once sleep is sorted, I'd suggest moving on to healthy eating and exercise. Everything you mentioned, having a terrible time convincing yourself to do the hard, boring tasks, struggling with setting time boundaries, routines, goal setting, etc., is going to be 100x easier once you've nailed sleep, food, and exercise. Obviously, all the above is easier said than done even for people without ADHD, let alone those of us with it, but I guarantee it's a better route than snake oil motivational quotes that imply you can avoid the hard work of changing and skip straight to success by changing your mindset or implementing a few life hacks.
Thank you for the reply and ordering of priorities, it's incredibly useful to hear. I agree, I need to focus on those before I allow my time and energy to be in other places. Stricter boundaries around my sleep is a fantastic place to start. Luckily, I already have a doctor and a gym, so I think I'm in a great place to make it happen. You are so correct that it's not going to be a sudden mindset shift that changes everything, but I do think I need to practice being more committed to myself, along with a healthy dose of self-compassion. I like to put things off into the indeterminate future, and that specific quote reminds me to maybe stop doing that. I want to consistently start making what is best for my health my priority, and I have periods where I often do, but it tends to get lost in the chaos after a month or so.
I have some suggestions, take from them what you will, MMV, etc. Lists. Not on phone, at least not for me. I carry a pocket-sized pad and a pen, and make lists of damn near everything. Personally, I find doing it on my phone is too easy, so the act of handwriting seems to make it stick a bit better. It's also way more satisfying to cross a list item out physically than to put a tick in a box on a screen. Reminders. Figure out how to use your calendar app for yourself. I'm not great at this, but I'm slowly learning, and the fact that my partner and I have a shared calendar is the reason we're still together / she hasn't maimed me in 12 years of living together. Voice assistant. I personally want lists to be an effort so they stick, and reminders, appointments, etc. to be easy to put in. Siri / OK Google are great for these. Meds. This one is so damn hard. I tend towards being a slight people pleaser for a number of reasons, while still being able to be assertive all the way up to arsehole if a situation demands it, and I eventually realized that I was people-pleasing my psyche by saying yep, pills fine. I'm blessed to have an absolutely awesome psychiatrist who, it turns out, encourages her patients to experiment to get the right dosage and right medication. I've gone from feeling hopeless on one Ritalin a day, to feeling terrified that nothing would help me on 2 by 3 Dexys a day, to being so much better with 70 mg Vyvanse with Dexys available to assist. Emotional jujitsu. Hear me out. Using your own brain's weaknesses or features against it. That's a shite explanation, so hopefully an example will help. I know that I dislike letting people down. I also know that my friends will be understanding, which is great, but, so if I want to get back into the gym, it's way easier to motivate myself if I know I'm gonna let a stranger down if I don't go. So I make a personal trainer appointment. That way if I don't go, I'm letting down a stranger. If I do go, that's a good spark for continuing, even if I need to make another appointment with a trainer to embed that a bit. Self-awareness. God, I don't mean this to sound trite, but, you have a potentially chronic condition. I was thinking about this last night when my fiancée was talking about someone not really understanding how her anxiety affects her. I thought of it this way: you have a constant head cold. Other people might have one of those for a few days and then it clears up, but you've got it all the time. You've learned to function with this cold, to a greater or lesser extent, but sometimes, even sometimes hour to hour, it flares up and makes you as unfunctional as one of those people mentioned above would be when their cold was so bad they couldn't come into work. So feckin' forgive yourself. Mindfulness meditation. This is hard for us, and especially hard to get into a routine with. I'm struggling with it. In fact, I'm writing this post to avoid it face with tears of joy, but 5 minutes a day can really make a difference. I like the timed meditations in the mindfulness app personally. Interests. Bluntly, through no fault of your own at all, you are basically a dopamine addict in almost constant need of a hit. Figure out what stimulates you, and do that. I thought for years I wanted to be a business analyst, but I did that for 3 years, at 3 different workplaces. Only the last one was my fault, but got fired 3 months ago for low productivity. I've had a lot of time to think since then about my next career goals, and I wasn't stimulated at the role I was at. I know everyone struggles at their job to a greater or lesser extent, but every minute of that was a slog. Think about the times, moments, activities, interactions you've had that have stimulated you, and work towards making that into a hobby, career, both, whatever. The one about, find a job you love and you'll never work a day in your life, is a trite sentiment for most people but probably an actual requirement for us. If you don't have a varied job history like mine, temping or contract work could be good for you to experience stuff and figure out what's right for you. Or maybe look for somewhere where you can move around within the company and try different roles/tasks. As an added bonus, this can also make you quite valuable to the company in my experience. Positives. I'm coming at this as someone with a relatively analytical personality, but try to keep a list somewhere. This one is probably okay to put on your phone, if you're following the notepad suggestion in one of times, situations etc. where you feel your ADHD has helped you. Doesn't matter if it's all the same thing, but you need to learn to see positives in this if you're anything like me. Depending on you, it may be helpful to keep track of negatives as well. November 9th, 23, today I got feedback from my manager and found that my RSD was making me feel worse about it than it deserved. But I would suggest a rule: you're allowed to write a positive without writing a negative, but you cannot write a negative without also writing a positive. I'm not a psych, but such a list might also be good to provide to yours if you're comfortable, or at the very least give you something to talk about in your sessions. That wasn't the original use I thought about for it, but I think it's a good one. Sorry for writing a novel to an ADHD person/people, but it's a topic I have a big interest in, so shockingly I can hyper-focus on it. Grinning face.
Where did you work? I am assuming it was America ad. That is the only place where employers can just sack you on the spot without reason. Low productivity alone is not sufficient reason to sack anyone. Why were you unproductive? Did they offer you any support?
In Australia. It wasn't without reason. I wasn't achieving KPIs, so was put on 6-week performance improvement plan, and while I improved a great deal I didn't achieve what they needed. I could have fought probably. The PIP was most certainly done in the way that I used to do them when I was leading teams, setting clear achievable goals, providing extra help etc., but I had worked with the HR team before on projects and didn't feel like I'd achieve much within the company, and didn't have the energy to go fair work or something. Plus, I knew in myself I wasn't achieving and I just wanted out. That said, others in the team who knew about the PIP were quite shocked that I didn't achieve it.
I hope you've been able to make peace with that, and it's lead to better things for you. It's so hard being in a job where you don't fit. I've felt like this many times, unfortunately. I got made redundant due to COVID with most of my team, and they fought it and got compensation, but I was already checked out of the company and studying at the same time, so I just did not have the energy to fight it. I try to look at it as a win. Since I got paid gardening leave, I still sometimes wish I had fought with them, but it took them months and I was well burnt out by then.
Discipline becomes much easier once you met your needs, though. The quotes are nice, but an idea I hold myself to is if I want to do something less, I actually should be doing something more. For this, you probably think you're wasting too much time, and you want to be more productive. But what you probably need is to be kinder to yourself, and give yourself more free time to do the things you actually want to do. We often tell ourselves that we need to save the fun stuff until after the boring stuff. But then you don't start the boring stuff, and you either cope with the fun or you do it and feel ashamed. Let yourself do the fun stuff after you take care of yourself, sleep, food, etc., until you're satisfied, and you'll naturally start doing the boring stuff.
Still much easier said than done, unfortunately. But at least anecdotally it works. I've lost 40 pounds so far by getting myself to eat more often. What that did was eliminate impulsivity with my hunger. I started flossing my teeth by caring less about how often I flossed. I felt less pressure to be perfect by doing it every day that I eventually formed a habit and started doing it. I started saving money for boring stuff, emergency, house, retirement, by letting myself buy fun things more. I stopped feeling as impulsive to spend money on random junk because I was already absorbed in the stuff I bought. You get the gist. It basically tricks your brain from acting like a dog who eats all of its food at once just to yak it all up, into becoming like a dog with a slow feeder who gets to eat all day.
My simple morning routine has changed my life. 5 things I do every morning. Wake up. Take my dogs out, get 5 to 10 minutes of sunlight in my eyes. Wakes me up and helps set circadian rhythm. Meditate for 5 to 10 minutes. Journal. I keep it simple. A few of my morning thoughts and feelings. But the important part for me is I also take this time for goal setting. I list 5 goals for the day and 5 goals for the future. You can be philosophical and meta or very specific. Make my bed. Simple task that is easy to complete and gives me the dopamine hit of accomplishing something. Reward myself with coffee and get on with the rest of my day. Note, I do miss days. Because, well, I have ADHD. But instead of giving up because I missed a day, I think of it like a cheat day on a diet. This little mindset shift has helped me a lot because oftentimes I have tried to start a routine/be disciplined, but when I slip up I would just give up. For some reason the idea of a cheat day helps me stick with it. Hope this helps.
But I've been reading Stoic philosophy too, and I think it helped me to get things done that I normally wouldn't have touched. Changing my perspective took a while, but it coincided with a cathartic period of my life. What discipline is, and I am probably the most stagnant person I know. But I've been finding motivation through journaling and a ridiculous amount of self-reflection. Putting into words who I am and what my values are keeps me grounded and focused on what's next in my life. I have to remind myself constantly of the why and for whom. It gets me to make the decisions I don't want to do in that moment. I think what I realized recently was how my motivations were flawed and toxic. I tried to get my happiness externally. That mindset kept me down and helpless. I had expectations for my partners to be the person I needed. I realized I was a massive hypocrite for setting these expectations and that the only way for me to be happy was to be that person myself. So that I wouldn't be afraid or anxious anymore and I don't have to rely on others to come through for me. I guess my greatest motivation is that after being miserable for so long, I just want to be happy. And I want to be that support person I was desperate for the people I love. I keep reminding myself of this whenever I fail or fear failure. This is probably a nonsensical blab. I'm going through a quarter-life crisis, lol.
I have a coach that only has adults with ADHD as clients. To put things in perspective, it took me well over a year to develop a morning routine that ensured I got to work on time. My system actually starts the night before, yuck, but I do it. I also use multiple alarms with my fave music as the alarm sound so I don't cringe when it goes off, signaling I need to move to the next morning activity or it's 10 minutes to leave the house time. I'm 52, diagnosed at 25, and this past year is the first time in my life I've been consistently on time. This extends to my personal life now too. I have also learned to use visual representations of my progress on key activities, like exercise. It's an old-school basic graph that I see immediately how much walking on the treadmill I've done towards meeting my weekly goal of 30 minutes each weekday. As for neatness, good luck to me, lol. However, my clothes haven't been on my bedroom floor for at least 10 years now. I have a basket in my bedroom that I throw my clothes into, and the basket doesn't leave the spot it's in. I bought a second basket to bring clothes to and from our laundry room. Lastly, I learned a strategy called breadcrumbs to help my working memory deficit. I leave a trail of breadcrumbs, aka very brief points or to-dos, so when I pause a personal or work project I can rely on those little sparks of info to pick up where I left off. I also rely on accountability buddies without expressly telling these folks that using them to keep me on track. It can be as easy as telling a family member to text me about plans, or I may ask for a reminder, or at work in particular, I find partners to work on projects with me informally or formally. Informal is me booking time with someone to get background info, ask questions, etc., whereas formal is a shared accountability to deliver. I can recommend an old but great book written for ADHDers called ADD-Friendly Ways to Organize Your Life, as well as a newer one that is called Organizing Solutions for People with ADHD. The second book has a lot of pictures supported with some text.
It's great to spend some of your downtime actively thinking about what you really want out of life, and if you don't come up with any answers, that's okay. As a fallback, think about elements of your life, past or present, that give you satisfaction and keep going after those in the short term. I find just having anything to look forward to is a godsend. A few months ago I was ruminating constantly at work, feeling shitty, and for the last few weeks I realized, I actually like working on this project, so now I look forward to going to work on that when I get to my job. For me, this satisfaction thing is like turning on my motor. And the goals thing is like figuring out where to point myself. Giving myself boring homework-esque kind of task planning, and trying to be disciplined, and shit never worked. My discipline is, not being disciplined, but seeking satisfaction in how I do things and adding value to what I work on. Usually, for me, I have great ideas while I'm working. I stop for just the quickest moment, write down my great idea really fast on a post-it note or something. You can also use Siri for to-do lists and such. Then when I'm in the flow I glance at my post-its and manage to get some shit done. It's always either now or not now, but I somehow manage to knock the post-it notes down over time.
For boring things like cleaning room, maybe try the approach, I will do 5 actions. Also, audiobooks/podcasts help with stuff like laundry. More creative stuff is harder. People were reporting some successes with less but more often approach. Paragraph a day on that technical book. My brother significantly improved his insomnia by going to the gym 3 times per week to tire the body. Don't compare to millionaires. There is always a luck component in success. Veritasium has good YT on it.
With ADHD, you cannot rely on your memory to remember to do things. I think the first form of discipline you should inculcate is writing things down. It doesn't need to be super organized, even post-its on your desk, cupboards, etc. will do the trick. Just needs to be something that will grab your attention repeatedly till it's addressed. Anything that takes 10 minutes or under, you should address it immediately. Don't put it off, otherwise you'll just play catch-up with a laundry list of chores/tasks, which just never happen. Unfortunately, this is where sheer willpower comes into play. You're going to have to force yourself to do these things. I find what works best for me is when I adjust my surroundings to suit my needs. I leave things where I will for sure see them, and I've tried to cultivate some semblance of a routine to feel a little more in control. Again, it doesn't have to be elaborate, but it serves as a good cue to do the things that are good for you. Build a simple routine just to alleviate the anxiety. Just a few simple tasks you do in the morning and night. This was especially helpful for me when it came to sleep. I will shower/brush, skincare, and get into bed. It sort of started serving as a cue to my brain that it's time to sleep. Weirdly enough, routines, which are ridiculously helpful, are very, very hard to hold down for people for ADHD. So, ensure it's simple, like as pared down as possible. Finally, I read this thing somewhere a few years ago, where this guy who was prone to procrastination would do things to keep his future self happy. This, sometimes, is literally the only reason I do shit. I hope this helps. Cheers.
Ideas to help you sleep: tire yourself out with any kind of enjoyable exercise. Don't have caffeine/stimulants 5 hours before bedtime. Don't look at a device screen 30 minutes before. Ideally get ready/wind down when the sun sets and wake when it rises or before. You can get a lot done before the sun comes up and when the rest of your town's/city's people are sleeping. Use a white noise machine/app or earplugs to block all random noises from grabbing your attention while trying to sleep. Also write down recurring/cyclic/infinite loop thoughts, and promise yourself you'll deal with them tomorrow. Try an aromatherapy vaporizer machine, with lavender oil, or try a few to find the best, to help you relax and sleep. Bedroom should be dark, or wear an eye mask, warm and comfortable. Buy/borrow a used physical book that you would enjoy reading in bed, read it until you pass out. Your bedroom is your temple, let no one or nothing defile it, defend it with your life.
Learning more about yourself, knowing what you want and working with what you got worked best for me. My baseline is, as long as I am working towards being active, eating and sleeping properly, I am okay. That is the greatest wealth that cannot be replaced by material wealth. I can acquire and enjoy what I need and want as long as I have that going, and be present for people and pets I care about and show up for myself. Everything else is a standard invented by humans and a bonus if you have them. May sound small for other people, but almost dying in 2020 changed my perspective to this. Accepting that I am just wired differently and trial different things to find out what works for me to get me to my goals, taking time to feel sad if I fail, then try again. Learning not to feel upset when my self-discipline, learning experience, and rest looks different from other people. You will always hear unsolicited advice everywhere of how you should do things, take them as you would like, but in the process, it should not feel restricting or like you are being punished. Love and be kind to yourself. Good luck, slightly smiling face.
Hi, I have no special answers, I'm sorry. But just letting you know that I can relate to pretty much everything you said, apart from dating a millionaire thinking face. I found a lot of value in Ellen Langer's talks and advice about a mindful way of life. Although, it's a bit of a buzzword today, she points out the importance of being mindful in a way that transforms all these tasks and ambitions that overwhelm us, not as a chore that you need to overcome, but more as opportunities to remain open and curious, that over time start to feel more exciting than daunting. I have ADHD too, and it's unfortunately far from something we can just turn off, but with her advice I've learned that every task or thing that I may not want to do, are actually very rarely as difficult or overwhelming when we do them mindfully, compared to how we think about them initially, and with a mindful approach we can see new and exciting aspects of going outside our comfort zone which subtly, over time trains the brain to seek and crave these actions. I probably didn't explain it very well, and her talks are explained very well. Anyway, just my recommendation from personal experience. I wish you all the best, folded hands.
A few things have helped me personally. For impulse decisions, I have a screening system I made for myself. I have an app called any.do, which is an organization app for Android where I stick all my stuff I need to do in. I have a section in that where I put anything which comes to mind over the course of the day. Today I decided I wanted to start an amateur radio station and some other shit. I was about halfway through a hyper-focus where I was researching licensing models/costs before I caught myself LOL. I stuck that and the other stuff into that screening folder and carried on with my day. I have a reminder set to remind me to check back on that list every morning, so I've had the chance to have 24 hours to let those ideas settle, plus I've slept on it too. If I look back through and still think it's a good idea, I move it to another folder, which is another screening folder, but this time it gets reviewed by someone other than me, wife/friend/co-worker, etc. I see what they think of the idea. If they think it's a good one, Then I move forward to planning how to go about actioning it. I won't just do it there and then. My planner has quite a few different sections in it, and it will get moved into one that corresponds. A radio project goes in future creative endeavors, and I start to plan it through the organizer. Keeping it all in the single interface means I don't lose track of where I'm at with it, and can set reminders to keep pushing forward with it. That way I don't lose focus. I have a similar system for impulse purchases. If you don't have an organization app like that, I would seriously recommend investing in one. I like any.do because it's got a fairly simple interface, so you don't get distracted by other stuff while doing a task, and it also supports syncing with smartwatches. So my reminders come through to my watch as well as my phone, aka less chance of missing one. I've only been diagnosed for a few weeks, so can't say how well or poorly other advice has worked for me yet. I still have troubles with self-control on the drug/alcohol front. However, I'm trying to control what I take and how much. Currently, I only drink alcohol, no more weed/opiates, etc., and I only buy what I want for the night when I go to the shops. I do have to have that talk with myself when I'm in the shop when ADHD brain goes. Buy that bottle of whiskey, you can control yourself and just have a glass of 2. It will be a savings if you buy in bulk. But so far I've been able to control that. I usually let myself get distracted by something else in the shop, usually the world food aisle, as I love buying random things I have no idea about, grinning squinty face. By the time I've picked up my beer and gotten sidetracked by some variety of Japanese snack, I've already paid and started the walk home by the time the whole, by the whiskey, thought comes back to me, and by then, I can't be arsed to walk back. I'm calling it positive self-sabotage, rolling on the floor laughing.
Another tip I would advise is self-manipulation, aka the ability to remove yourself from situations that you know are triggering for impulse decisions, cause you to get distracted or make you procrastinate. Whenever I get a deadline for something, I make a new shorter one for myself, and change all reminders I have to this new deadline. I'll usually forget the original deadline and believe the one I've made for myself is the real one. Good way to make sure you are one step ahead, as even if you are late/forget, you've given yourself an extra few days/week to get it done in time. If you set things up in such a way that you don't have the option to do anything but what you're supposed to be doing, then it will get done. There are a lot of anti-procrastination tools for your smartphone these days which lock you out of all apps, which can be a distraction. You can set a timer for this which expires after a set period, can be minutes/hours, even days or weeks if you need a genuine break. Stops you doom scrolling social media or anything else while you are supposed to be studying/working, etc. Cold Turkey is a good one that works on most platforms. https://getcoldturkey.com. Another thing I do is soft lock my finances. Once I have paid all my bills, I move all the rest into an account that I can only access by going into the branch. There are accounts like this which don't come with a card, but I tend to find these cause issues in emergencies. So I move it into an account that does have a card, but just destroy that card. I have the details saved on a memory stick, password-protected file, which I keep in my work locker. I tend to work from home 90% of the time as the office is located a ways away. I can still get there when needed, but it's an effort to do so. I only have my main account card saved to Google Wallet, or in my phone/PC to use for internet purchases. This way I'm not able to make impulse purchases on any day other than payday, so I do have to control myself on that one day. But I'll usually make a list of what I need/want in advance, purchase it all, and immediately move the money out to the reserve account. This way you have the benefit of having money there if you really need it, but because it's a bit of an arse to get access to it, by the time I've made the decision to go to the bank/drive to work to get the details and started my journey, I've thought about it for long enough to talk myself off the cliff. LOL. If you're interested, this audiobook has some really good strategies like this in it. Found it quite useful, although I adapted a lot of them to suit my personal needs, so you may benefit from that too. Listen to ADHD and AZ by Leanne Maskell on Audible. https://www.audible.co.uk/pd/b0bat60at2 Source _code =ASSER 150021921000v. Good luck, Winky Face with Tongue.
Exercise daily, stop eating shit, go to bed before midnight. If I do that, the rest kind of falls in place. Well, not really, but it's easier to have a clear head to tackle the difficult stuff. If I don't do that, chaos. And chaos is bad. Do I always do it? No. I'll be great for years, then slip up for maybe even up to a whole year, usually after some big event, a holiday, a job change, etc. But it's never too late to correct course and get back on track.
Get your sleep fixed first. No amount of self-discipline tips or advice is going to help a sleep-deprived ADHD brain. Sleep, diet, sport/enough movement and socializing, then the self-discipline. Oh, and meds, obviously. It's the only way I get my taxes done. Next steps would be body doubling, small short-time goals, get friends to hold you accountable, maybe delete apps that eat up your time, TikTok, Insta, Source, myself, bad sleep in general and horrible sleep for half a year. Now better with meds, both for sleep and ADHD, and everything is easier.
All of these answers are great, and I want to add one that has helped me the most. I don't use the word should with myself as much as possible, because it can start a spiral of self-assessment and comparison. I do what I can, and it's enough. As a kid at school, I didn't cope with pressure. I'd get a feeling of anxious doom and then not do the work. Was a vicious cycle of self-fulfilling failure. When I do a task list for something I'm avoiding, sometimes it will be like, open up Excel and look at the dates I will need to invoice. From there I can tick it off and I've done the biggest thing, face the thing I'm avoiding and get past the fear. No idea why I dread doing my invoices, but it is what it is. All the best.
45, newly diagnosed, love, months. After a single counseling session, with someone I'd worked with earlier this year before my diagnosis, during which they hinted at integrated family systems as a means of exploring my co-issues, I started putting the pieces together and figured out that one of my parts is a FING princess. My princess part isn't intentionally snobby or above any task, except vomit, mold, litter boxes, taking out the trash, dealing with any bodily excretions from indoor pets, and mowing the lawn. She's quite willing to pitch in. Sometimes. Kinda. Sorta. My princess part is too busy doing important princess things to bother with laundry or preparing meals. If someone doesn't do these things, she'll likely forget or leave it until the last possible moment. Eventually the clutter overcomes all the space in which the princess does the important princess things, and the happy, creative, seemingly well-balanced princess becomes a hyper or hypo-reactive monster. What clicked for me this past week was that this princess is directly linked to not being taught how to adult as a child. When I was explaining the princess part to my older sister, real person, she rolled her eyes and explained that she'd known this since we were kids. I assumed her complaints about me always being able to cry or whine myself out of chores were exaggerated by birth order, but I can now see that she's more right than wrong. The adults in my life got tired of the poor behavior/emotional dysregulation/hyper/hyperreactive state that these boring, inane tasks would bring on, that they just stopped even trying to get me to do things. Just as no one at school taught me any executive function skills because I didn't appear to need any help because I'm intelligent, no one at home taught them to me because I made their lives miserable if they tried/had their own issues/whatever. So my self-discipline advice is that it's okay for me not to know how to adult. No one ever taught me how. I can only teach myself something when I understand the boundaries, so every piece of information unlocks new pieces that will lead me to a solution. I am intelligent, so now that I see the problem, I know that I can figure out a way to fix it. Also, if you want a one-liner, progress, not perfection.
Don't sacrifice your soul or go joining any self-help cults. I'd worry less about demanding the best from myself and focus more on the happy medium. I am a flawed human, I am never going to be perfect nor do I want to be, and I'd rather be happy with what I have than feeling inadequate for what I don't have. You have legit things you can work on right now to start feeling better. Insomnia makes everything worse. I would start there. See a sleep doctor, try meds, maybe get a sleep study. I have insomnia and it turns out I was trying to sleep with severe obstructive sleep apnea. Really hard to function when you have shit sleep. Setting boundaries with loved ones is a skill that you have to work on, and there's no easy fix. It stems from believing that you are a priority over others, your health matters first, and without those things you're just running yourself into the ground faster. Selfish? Who cares? Put yourself first because no one else will. Put on your own oxygen mask before helping the person next to you, right? Lastly, what helps me day to day is a legal pad on the kitchen counter. It lives there. On Sunday evenings or Monday mornings I fill it out. I write down every day and list the things I have to do each day. This is going to sound dumb to some, but this is where I am right now. Each day I have a line for hygiene, showering, brushing teeth, taking meds, etc. Checking those things off helps me feel better about myself. Then I have a column of things I want to get done that week. Dishes, laundry, grocery pickup, cleaning a specific room. Every day I try to do one thing from the goals section. Some days I do, some days I don't. Some days I knock out more than one goal and that feels great. It really helps to see what you accomplish written down. And as someone said earlier, radical acceptance is a great tool. I'm doing my best, fuck the rest.
None, which isn't to say I can't make meaningful changes into my life, but I can't act purely based on discipline. The most effective ways to change something for me is to see what I'm already doing and making the environment around me better at either me doing the thing. Example. What I do, throw dirty laundry in a specific place on the floor. Solution, put my laundry bag there and I'll put the dirty laundry inside it every time. Instead of working against the current I follow it and nudge it here and there. I know having the energy or the will to do X is not the same day to day. So if I make the important stuff easy, then I get more energy to do other things. Hope this helps.
Okay. Hard truths. All the time management crap and techniques that are popular quick fixes tend to work for and designed by people without ADHD. I've had to work really hard to overcome the shame and victim blaming from people that don't understand our brains aren't normal. There are ways to help fix your life, but typically CBT-BS doesn't work for me. Maybe for people with milder cases of ADHD, I don't know. Do I sound angry? I am. I've been inundated with advertisements of apps claiming that ADHD and procrastination are just things you can fix with the right life coach. If your ADHD is severe, you need meds. They won't completely fix the issue, but they make it so that you can actually start working on coping mechanisms. Then you need to find someone trained in helping people ADHD specifically. Ideally from someone with ADHD. For instance, delayed gratification won't work. If you have a number of tasks to get done, do the easy one first. You'll just feel guilty for getting nothing done if you spend all day avoiding starting on the difficult projects. Do something easier and you will both get the dopamine hit of mission accomplished and have helped switch your brain into working mode. I have a whole bunch of other examples, but I'll stop ranting here. Yes, I'm triggered. Yes, my ADHD has led to a full-blown burnout and PTSD. I hate victim blaming. Not being able to do something all by yourself isn't a failure.